Good morning, students. Welcome to third year. I hope you have completed your second year and entered into third year, and you are now going to start a new academic year through online mode only because of the current situation. I hope all are safe and healthy at home. And now it's time to start your third year online classes. So let me introduce myself. Myself, Sandeep Reddy. Maybe you all know. I will be teaching you the pharmaceutical jurisprudence subject. Here, this is a very new subject and it has only theory, no practical. And this subject helps you to learn the acts and its regulations in pharmacy. So this subject supports you and you can know more about the acts and its rules and regulations. Here, let me tell you about this pharmaceutical jurisprudence subject. It is a weekly 2 hours classes and you have 12 units. And from today onwards, we are going to start our new academic session with fresh energy with our first topic. And today I will be saying about what is pharmaceutical jurisprudence, and then we will be going to our first topic, pharmaceutical legislation through online. So I will be sharing you the slides through online mode and try to focus and listen to the topic. So now I am going to share you the slides. Let me share the slides. I hope it is visible to everyone. Yeah, this is a new subject, pharmaceutical jurisprudence, and in this the first unit is pharmaceutical legislation. So let me introduce about pharmaceutical jurisprudence. So what is jurisprudence? So jurisprudence is a word derived from a Latin word jurisprudentia, which means actually the study of or to know the knowledge of the laws. So which means the study, knowledge or science of law. So pharmaceutical jurisprudence is the subject of rules and regulations of pharmacy practice, and also related to drugs and pharmaceuticals. So pharmacies, drugs and pharmaceuticals are all regulated in every country. So in every country, they are regulating the pharmacy profession, pharmacists, drugs and pharmaceuticals. Therefore, pharmacists, especially practicing pharmacists, must be aware of all these rules and regulations that apply to our professional activities. Because see, without any rules and regulations, we cannot frame anything. Simply saying is different, and going it in a systematic way is different. So pharmaceutical jurisprudence is a course which has become a major and integral part of the pharmacy education. So either it may be PhD students or BPharm students and diploma students. Anyone will they have to go through this pharmaceutical jurisprudence subject. So the purpose of the next coming to your topic is pharmaceutical legislation. What is the purpose of pharmaceutical legislation and whether it is required or not? See, to ensure that patients receive drugs and of required quality and quantity, tested and evaluated for its safety and efficacy for their intended use. So the things, see, so many patients will be taking the drugs, but is there any particular system, whether anybody is observing its safety, whether anybody is seeing about its efficacy, whether it is a life-threatening drug or it is a life-saving drug? So it has to be known. So to know this, this is your pharmaceutical legislation. Here we will be studying about our pharmacy legislation. So the laws intended to regulation and control of various aspects of life. The laws intended for regulation and control of various aspects in the life. These aspects may be social, economical, and it may be political legislation, whatever it may be. So the pharmaceutical legislation is a mixed legislation which overlaps with both social and economics. That means it covers both social and economic aspects. So the main objective is the patient receiving drugs of required quality tested and evaluated for its safety as well as efficacy for their intended use, and this is association with the help of the society. So the origin of pharmaceutical legislation in India is this pharmaceutical legislation when it has started. So to say clearly, in the year 1811, that is 1811, Mr. Bathgate East India Company, first company or first chemist who kept his shop in Calcutta in 1910. So he is the founder. He is the founder of the East India Company. He is the first chemist, and he started manufacturing of tinctures and spirits in the year 1910. The very next, in the year 1821, Mr. Smith Stain Street and Co. He started apothecary shop. So it is nothing but a person who prepares medicines and dispense the medicines and drugs. Apothecary shop means a person who prepares medicines, sells medicines and drugs. And he started manufacturing in 1910. So like that, if you see in 1901, Acharya Prafulla Chandra Ray, he started the small factory. Its name is Bengal Chemicals and Pharmaceuticals in Calcutta. He started a small factory. So 1903, the same way, Professor T.K. Gajar, he started a factory at Parel and also Alembic Chemical Works at Baroda. So these are the two small companies, and first chemist, they started this pharmaceutical units, and this is our small history. So coming to origin, so just now I have shown you a slide saying that 1811 he is the first chemist opened by Mr. Badgate. So this is about our origin of our pharmaceutical aspects and units. So coming to history of pharmacy legislation in India, in the early part of 20th century, there was practically no legislative control on drugs as well as on the profession of pharmacy. That is our profession. Profession of pharmacy means ours. So there is no legislation control. So though no regulatory bodies, no rules and regulations, no acts, even though there is an Opium Act which started in the year 1878, Poisons Act started in the year 1919, Dangerous Act started in the year 1930. They were in force. These were specific in nature and inadequate in controlling. Specific in nature means for the namesake, the names are available, but there is no control. In such conditions, in 1927, resolutions were passed by the Council of States to recommend to the Governor General in the Council to usage of all provisional governments to take immediate step to control the indiscriminate usage of drugs and to legislate and to standardize the preparation and sale of drugs. That means they initiated or passed this 1927 by saying that there should be a control on the preparation and sale of drugs and usage of drugs. So the government of India then took a resolution and appointed a committee known as Drug Inquiry Committee in 1928. So the very next year, in 1927, a resolution was passed by the Council of the States, and the very next year in 1928, there was a Drug Inquiry Committee where the resolution was passed. And there are some reasons for forming a Chopra committee. So the drug inquiry committee is itself called as Chopra committee. So there were some reasons. Just now I said you that there is no proper standardization of sales and usage of drugs. So for that case, we have started a resolution and they formed a committee. So the committee formed with some points, that is, units were not sufficient to fulfill the requirements of Indian publics. That is, pharmaceutical units are not sufficient. So drugs were always imported from UK, Germany, France, and etc. So during First World War, drugs were imported into India, which increased the demand of indigenous drugs, So low quality. So unhealthy competition was increased or grew up, and the Indian market was flooded or shaded with the inferior quality drugs. That is not the first quality, it may be second or third quality, where the health of the Indian people were get unhealthy. So the public pressurized the government to introduce effective legislation to control on import, manufacture, distribution, and the sale of drugs. So because in earlier slide I have said you that because of the resolution which was passed, now this has come under from the public. So public pressurized the government to start effective legislation to control import, manufacture, distribution and sale of drugs. There were no legal and effective control on pharmacy profession till that time. So till this time, there was no legal and effective control on pharmacy profession. So yeah, anyone is selling, any person is manufacturing, any person is importing. So there is no specific like qualifications that only pharmacists are those who have completed pharmacy or those who are qualified pharmacists, only those persons have rights to manufacture, distribute or sell, like that. There were no some particular points legally. So hence the Indian government appointed Drug Inquiry Committee, it is known as DEC, under the chairmanship of R.N. Chopra in 1931. So it is formally known as Chopra Committee or DEC Committee. So this committee has formed in the year 1931. So the government of India, after taking a resolution and appointed a committee in the year 1928, and see, it took 2 years. Government of India on 11th August 1930 appointed a committee under the chairmanship of R.N. Chopra to see the problems of pharmacy in India and recommended to take measures. So that is R.N. Chopra committee has come to see the problems in our country, that are pharmacy problems, and they said him to recommend some measures. So this committee published its first report in 1931. It was reported that there was no recognized specialization profession of pharmacy. So a set of people known as compounders were filling this gap. Just after the publication of the report, Professor M.L. Scroff, you know who is M.L. Scroff? I hope. Initiated pharmaceutical education, pharmacy education at the university level in Banaras Hindu University. It is a very famous and old university, more than 100 years, Banaras Hindu University. So there, M.L. Scroff introduced pharmacy education, the root of pharmacy education. So in 1935, United Provision Pharmaceutical Association was established, UPPA was established, and which is later converted into Indian Pharmaceutical Association. Now you are all well known about IPA, Indian Pharmaceutical Association. So the Indian Journal of Pharmacy was started by M.L. Scroff in the year 1939. So All India Pharmaceutical Congress Association was established in the year 1940. That means you see slowly from 1930 they started. In 1931 they have given a report and they said that there is no recognition. So the recognition started by M.L. Scroff. Then roots of pharmacy education. Then in 1935 they formed an association, and then they started a journal in 1939. Then they formed an association in all India level in 1940. So slowly this committee has step by step made a growth in the pharmacy profession. So this drug inquiry committee has lot of recommendations. 90 recommendations were reported by this committee and submitted. In that, the most important recommendations are formation of Central Pharmacy Council and State Pharmacy Council, which has to look after about the education and training of pharmacy professionals, and where the council has to maintain the register which contains names and addresses of the registered pharmacists. The registered pharmacist means those who have completed his degree, and after getting his certificate, education certificate, then he has to register in the State Pharmacy Council. Then only is called as a registered pharmacist. This registered pharmacist, after registration, this whatever the registration has been done to him, this number will be again clubbed in Central Pharmacy Council. That means all the states will have pharmacy colleges. In all the places, in every state, their own people will register in State Pharmacy Council. At the end, this will be kept at one place. So that is called as central register. In the central register, all these names will be registered. Like that, that is the first point. Then this next point is creation of drug control machinery, DCM department at central level and branches in all the states. Creation of drug control machinery, DCM. So this is the old name. Now it is unupdated. Establishing a well-equipped central drug laboratory, CDL, with qualified staff and experts for an efficient and speedy working of drug control department. Small laboratories would work under its guidance. So making of central drug laboratory. So central drug laboratory means whatever the drug is there, it has to be tested. Next, they have changed drug bill. So because of the reluctant approach of government towards implementation of the recommendation of DEC, public pressurized the government. Ultimately, in 1937, import of drug bill was introduced in Legislative Assembly to control the import of drugs. That is, see, if there is no control on import of drugs, so many people are importing all unwanted, spurious, unintended drugs, and they are making business and they are spoiling the health of the lives of the people in India. So for that case, public pressurized the government to keep a control on import of drugs. However, they said manufacturing, sale, distribution of drugs was not included in the bill. So the committee forced the government to include all these aspects like manufacture, sale and distribution of the drugs, so that it will be completely full-fledged in the drug bill. So as a result, in 1940, drug bill was again introduced in the assembly and the drug bill 1940 was passed. So drug bill 1940 was passed and it came into force in the Drug Act 1940. Later on, it was amended many times and so many provisions were related to this drug. In this act, they have covered so many provisions. So here they have covered cosmetics, Ayurveda, Unani and homeopathic medicine. The present Drugs and Cosmetics Act is an improved version of Drug Act 1940. So olden days, earlier the name was Drug Act 1940. Now it is Drugs and Cosmetics Act, the updated name. So the main objective of this Drugs and Cosmetics Act, DNC Act, you can also say it as DNC Act. So the main objective is to control, import, manufacture, distribution and sale of drugs and cosmetics. So the central government has made many rules from the same and presented it as a Drugs and Cosmetics Rule 1945. So Drugs and Cosmetics Act 1940 and the rules were made in the year 1945. These act and rules were amendmenting from time to time. From time to time, they are updating the rules. So there are some other important acts after this DEC committee is formed, Drug Inquiry Committee. After independence of 1947, there is a Pharmacy Act 1948. PCI has also established under this act only. PCI means you all know you are studying under one pharmacy education is under one statutory body, that is Pharmacy Council of India, which is located in Delhi, and it is controlled by president and its members. You all know who is president? Pharmacy Council of India, Dr. B. Suresh. So the next important act is Drugs and Magic Remedies Act 1954. Drugs and Magic Remedies Act, you can, so it has objectionable advertisements. So you cannot advertise all the drugs. So that is, say, you can only OTC drugs you can advertise, but not all cancer drugs or any other diseases drugs, cardiovascular diseases, any other. See, now also if you are familiar, outside you will not find any advertisements regarding drugs. Next, Medicinal and Toilet Preparations Act 1955 and Rules 1956. So it is earlier it is excise duties, that is which are alcohol, opium. So all this comes under this Medicinal and Toilet Preparations Act 1955, and the rules were made in the year 1956. Next, Drug Price Control Order in 1979, and it has changed again in the year 1987. So DPCO Act, Drug Price Control Order. Next one is Narcotic Drugs and Psychotropic Substances Act 1985. Next, publications of first edition of Indian Pharmacopoeia in 1955 based on British Pharmacopoeia 1948. So our first edition of Indian Pharmacopoeia, it is important, IP, was published in the year 1955, that is the first edition. Until now we have 17 editions, 7 editions. So the latest one is 2018. So in 1955 first edition, second edition 1966, third edition 1988, fourth edition 1996, fifth edition 2007, sixth edition 2014, seventh edition 2018. What will be there in this IP? IP, Indian Pharmacopoeia, has all the standard formulas in its book. Whatever the updations are going on, every year in this edition they will be updating. And this is your latest edition is 2018. So other acts included were Industries Act 1951, Industries Employment Act 1946, Factories Act 1948, Indian Patent and Design Act 1970, Trade and Merchandise Mark Act 1958, Prevention of Food Adulteration Act 1954, Epidemic Disease Act 1897. So Epidemic Disease Act 1897, you all may be familiar because you all are you know about this current situation, this virus effect. So Epidemic Disease Act is also implemented. Shops and Establishment Act respectively in all the states according to its essential commodities. And this is about your pharmaceutical legislation, and all these are the acts which were framed after the DEC Act. And there are so many frequently asked questions are write about what is the objective of pharmaceutical legislation in India, write a note on origin or history of pharmaceutical legislation in India, what are the recommendations of DEC committee, write a short note on scope and objectives of pharmaceutical legislation in India, write a short note on Chopra committee. So these are the type of questions frequently asked. So this completes about your pharmaceutical legislation, a brief review. This is your first unit, and this is your first topic. Hope you all understood. If you have any doubts, you can ask. So this is about your introduction and first unit of pharmaceutical jurisprudence. Thank you.